Hello, everybody, and welcome to the video briefing of the inaugural GT Open season. Basically, this is the prologue. And as this is probably going to be a pretty long, yeah, document or briefing that we need to go through for the reason that there's a lot of new people and etc. I decided to do a video briefing once again, especially as we have deaf people, like actual deaf people in this series. I want to have that with subtitles so that they better understand everything considering this. So we will start with some general organizational notes. The pre-qualification round is mandatory to all drivers for the reason that we are having 77 nominations as of the moment I'm doing the video, and we only have 60 spots available for the whole series. So we need to sort out 17 people. That's unfortunate, but also how things are. And so we need to go through a process of grid selection. First and foremost, the race is going to happen this Sunday on November 9th, and you can see the passwords here. And very important, there's two servers that we will be presenting, and you have to see the driver allocations. You can see that right here. You can click the link, and then it will show up where you are supposed to race, on which server you are supposed to race. There's two servers, servers A and B, and you are only allowed to join on the respective server. Word server setup with weather settings you can see here. It's static weather because we don't want to have weather as an influencing factor for our grid selection. So this is a one-time situation for the pre-qualification. We're going to have static weather enabled. For the track state at the beginning of FP3, that actually is FP4 is wrong. It's FP3. It's going to be 0%, and it's going to be carried over. As we're having static weather, the in-sim carried over time is not 100% accurate, but I try to cover it as good as possible. So be aware of that fact. You can see the schedule where for the pre-qualification, we're doing the sprint master format, which means you have those sessions enabled. For the race server, you have a 1 hour practice as well ahead of the briefing. I'm doing the briefing video right now here, so we should be good to go through the briefing document as fast as possible. Then once the server moves over into the qualification session, the group A is going to be allowed to go out, which is pro AMs and AMs. What I'm meaning here is once the server moved over from the free practice session into the qualification session, there's not going to be an announcement. You are just allowed to go out. So all pro AMs and AMs are allowed to go out. You have 2 laps to set a lap. It's open format. It's 10 minutes. Then we will announce the 1 minute to go at 13:39, like basically 9 minutes into the session. We're going to announce 1 minute to go. After 10 minutes, we're going to announce checkered flag for Group A. As of this moment, Group B is allowed to line up at the end of pit road. Once again, when the checkered flag announcement of Group A is announced in the in-game text chat, Group B, which is pros only, is allowed to line up at the end of pit road, but you're not allowed to go out. You may go out once the green flag for Group B qualification notification came out. Then we have a 25-minute sprint race after the qualification for Pro has concluded. You have to do 1 mandatory pit stop. That's going to be the heat. And then we're going to continue after that with warm-up, gridding, and master race, which is 65 minutes. And you need to do 2 mandatory pit stops. Be sure to understand when you are allowed to do the mandatory pit stops, because there's actually a requirement to 1 pit stop, or basically it's two requirements. You're not allowed to do the pit stop in the first and last 5 minutes, and you have to do the pit stop, one of them, in between minutes 25 and 35 of the race. In the case that you're not able to attend the race, you have to use the calendar, the SASH calendar, basically, and click on unsubscribe of the event. Like, you have to click down low here, and then it will show you as not attending for the race. This in particular is pretty bad if it's for pre-qualification, because that basically means you're out of the contention for a potential spot on the grid. So if you're not able to attend, you will be placed on the waiting list. However, if you're not attending and you didn't unsubscribe of the event, you will be placed on the very back of the of the waiting list. So if you're not attending on Sunday, ensure you have checked the unsubscription for the event. I'm going to say this here because you have to ensure you have the correct car number, and you have to ensure you have the correct car selected. Once you are registered to the session, it can't be undone, and that basically is a no-no for the grid selection process. So you can consider yourself, oh shit, I have fucked up. I'm probably one of the candidates that's not going to make it into the grids. So be aware that this has an impact, or at least it can have an impact on this whole stuff. Because we have to sort out 17 people, so we're gonna look at formalities, and if you fail to do them correctly, you'll be on the list to watch out for. If you are not having the correct roles right now, as you're watching the video, you should make sure you head over to the role request channel so that you are getting the correct roles, so you can see the pre-qualification channel. But if you are able to see this video, you probably already have them. The race control bot is very important for you considering race day. On race day, the only command we'll be checking is the RC command. Very important. We are going to have all the team channels muted. So if you are writing to us, even if you tag us as organization or race control in your personal team channel, we won't see that message. You have to use the /RC command so that you are communicating with us. That is very, very important. Also, make sure you understand how the toll works. We're going to go through that in a minute. You can double check your team with the /entry, and then the series you have to select, which would be GTO for this instant, and then the car number. The car number is always that you have to choose is always the car number that is the first off the entry page on your team. Unfortunately, I have to undergo some severe changes to the bot, which I wasn't able to do in time for this event, and probably I will not be able until after the season. So we'll see how that pans out. Probably during, as long as the season is running, I will probably not be changing that. So if you're using the entry with the GTO tag, always make sure to use the car number that is the first car number of your entry, as you can see of the entry page. If you want to protest something, use the /protest command, and everything should be self-explanatory as of this point. Ensure you do that until 1 hour after the event has finished, because that is the deadline for formally submitting a protest. The add driver and delete driver is not allowed to be used in GTO. You have to use the /ask orga to change the lineup on that end. Let's move over to the rules and regulations. I can only emphasize this. It's of each driver's responsibility to ensure you have read through and understood all regulations, as of the general sporting regulations and the series regulations. Also, be aware that we have the driving standards guideline. Ensure you have read through the driving standard guideline as well. because that's basically how we are issuing incidents. When we're looking at incidents, we're looking for our driving standard guideline. And if you're coming from IRA or you're new to the series and you have raced in different series, this is a little bit different to what they are doing. And so take a look into it and be aware you understand what the driving standard guideline looks like. Penalties for the pre-qualification only. We will not be issuing penalties during the event. All will be processed and reviewed after the race, or basically after the whole event. That means we do not need slow zones for this event in particular. So we are not having slow zones. Drivers are expected to submit protests for any incident they believe warrant review, exercising due diligence and vigilance in doing so. Meaning, if you will protest something that we deem is a frivolous protest, that will also have an impact on the grid selection factor. So be aware that whatever you protest is a valid protest. Full course yellow. Okay, now we come to the interesting stuff. During the event, in the Masters race, we're going to throw a random full course yellow. And when that is deployed, make sure you have understand all of these rules that we have here. We're going to do a 30-second warning to the full course yellow. In race situations later in the season, it's only going to be a 10 seconds to full course yellow. So be aware that you understand that. This is going to be text chat only, for the reason that we have a dev team, and to not give them a disadvantage on that. We're only doing text chat, not voice chat as it's written here. We're going to do text chat. Then same thing happens when before the race is going back to green. We are going to do a 30-second countdown. Obviously, it's not every second that we're going to count down. Basically, when it comes down to the seconds, we're going to do a 30-second, then 10-second, 5 seconds, 1 second, or maybe 2 seconds, and then we're going to announce the full course caution, full course yellow now. And as of the moment, the full course yellow is out and has reached, the countdown is reached to 0. You are supposed to be at pit speed limiter. We're going to take a critical look on that after the race, and whoever fails, that's not a good thing. So you should really take a look into this, and you should be aware of the fact that this could potentially be a deciding factor for the grid selection process. So I recommend you're not on full course yellow speed, which is basically pit speed, the moment countdown reaches 0, but maybe a second earlier or something. All right, tow requests. As this is a single driver series, obviously, you cannot request a tow while you're stationary at some point. So this means that any car that's not capable of returning to pits is required to tow back to pit lane. So what you need to do basically is you are going, if you're stationary, you are allowed to tow out, and then you have to use the /tow commands after you tow it back to the pit lane. You have to do that immediately. So basically, you tow out, go to Discord, go to your team channel, write /tow, and go back to iRacing, and maybe wait until you want to go out again, or if you are just concluding the race at this point. If a car is within the area of a cutout inside the barriers, a so-called self-space, we're going to see pictures later in the document where this is the case. We are not going to throw a caution in the case of a tow request. This is irrelevant for pre-qualification either way, because because we won't throw a caution. Anyway, we don't have damage on in this session, so it shouldn't be an issue if you're not like having hardware failure or something. And in that case, it would be helpful to write a message to RC and say, oh, well, here I had my steering wheel just fell out of each other, or I lost my braking pedal, or whatever the situation is. You should inform us about that so that we can take that into consideration when doing the grid selection process. There's no toe back requirement in qualification. However, if you toe back in qualification, your qualification is concluded. That's something you should take into consideration. When we are going through the grid selection process, there's four major spaces that we are going to review, which is obviously the results, which means speed, racecraft has an impact on it. Then penalties. Every potential penalty outcome has a direct impact on your grid selection. Then obviously implementation of regulations, which is abiding to the rules, having the full code zero or safety car procedure knowledge, and correct treatment of the bot. That's all things that we're going to take into consideration for that. And then obviously the administrative part, which is the correct car number and the correct car. If you fail on that end, well, that's not a good one. I can tell you right now that it has different impacts, whatever you're doing wrong. I can tell you right now that the speed and racecraft, as well as the penalty outcomes, will be the most important parts about all of this. Like, you don't necessarily need to be the fastest driver on track. If you have a clean race, that is probably a high stake you will be on the grid, if everything else is in a reasonable space. Let's go to race-specific informations for the qualification. As I've said already, Group A is AM and Pro AM. Group B is Pro only. Once again, as soon as a car has left its stall, a car's qualification will be concluded if the car has been towed back to the pits for whatever reason, including towing in the pit lane, which means you need to go back to your pit stall. Then you may go out of the car, you may request a new car, you may go out again. Doesn't make a lot of sense when you only have 2 laps, but that's the rules. Race starts will be rolling. All cars will start as one big group together. Once the pace car pulls into the pit lane, the pole sitter will control the field until the start of the race. He must maintain a consistent pace car speed until the starting zone, increasing speed before the start or to spread the grid, or overly slowing while the grid is approaching the start zone can be cause for investigation by race control. Advantage gained or incidents resulting from these actions may be penalized. I can tell you will be penalized. We're coming to the starting zone and the grid corridors on the next page. You may not overtake cars in your lane until the start finish line, and you have to maintain your side of the corridor. Cars starting from pit lane will be released by race control. We won't have that situation for the pre-qualification event because there's no potential penalties that could be spoken out as of this moment. Now let's come to the starting zone. The starting zone is basically from that first line until the start finish line. That is the area where the overall leader is allowed to go, and it's only the overall leader. And you have to maintain your corridor until the end of that starting zone, which is the start finish line, and from there on you're allowed to overtake. Corridors is a little bit tricky here, so we widened them a little bit because there's no grid spots for normal cars, so to say. For race cars, it's only for motorbikes. So what I can tell you is it's the spots from the motorbikes from the most left to the next one in that line, and it's on the other hand the ones from the most right hand side to the next in that line. That is basically where you have to slot in that area somewhere. And remember, you have to hold the corridors. We have a perfect example here on how it should be and how it should not be. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Those areas, those cutouts, that's what I meant earlier. Those ones, that is safe spaces. If you're close to that, you okay, and if you're towing from there, we won't throw a caution, which is irrelevant for this event whatsoever. We just add it as an information so you understand how that works for future races. When traveling down the pit lane, it is completely illegal to circumvent the pit speed limiter. You have 5 seconds to switch from the fast lane, which is marked by the dots, You have to imagine the line here continuing from the dots to the stall. You have 5 seconds to move from here to here, and then you have another 5 seconds to move from here to here. Cars on the fast lane have priority use over cars coming from the stall lane. If any overlap from a car in the fast lane to a car in the stall lane has been achieved, the car from stall lane has to yield to the car from the fast lane. Some more general information on the track limits, damage, and BOP. We will have unlimited amount of incidents. However, we are still tracking them, and that has a direct impact on the grid selection process. So if you're overly accessing that, that's probably not a good idea to do in the pre-qualification event. Damage is turned off because we don't want to have any damage on any car influence the race or influence the outcome of the race. There will not be a BOP for this event. Be aware that we are looking for the cars individually. Like, it doesn't matter, or let's phrase me that different. We know which cars are fast and which cars have a natural disadvantage to all of this. So we're aware of that fact, and you shouldn't be worried about finishing behind 10 Mustangs as the first BMW, let's say. Then we probably know that your pace wasn't that bad. The capacity of fuel will be set to 75% on all cars for this event. This is roughly the number we can expect for the main season as well, at least for this format. And that's it. Thanks for the attention, and we all wish you good luck in the race, and we really hope you can do your best and you can make a spot into the grid. I'm sorry for those who don't make it in the grid eventually, but that's just how things are. Wish you good luck and have a good one.